everybody, John Bornschein here, and this is Cable Lane. Today we are in part 4 of our study of how old is the earth. Let's begin our study today as we turn to Scriptures, Isaiah chapter 40. In it we read in verses 25 to 26. To whom then will you liken me? Or to whom shall I be equal, says the Holy One. Lift up your eyes on high and see who has created these things, who brings out their host by number. He calls them all by name, by the greatness of his might, and the strength of his power, not one is missing. Powerful text to put us in the proper paradigm as we study about the age of the earth. Now, one thing I want you to keep in mind, it's often been asked of me and probably of you. If you're a young earth person, you believe in creation and you believe that the earth is not much older than 6,000 years, you've probably been asked a time or two about Genesis chapter 1, in which the word day is used. Often the critique to that is whether or not that was actually one literal 24-hour period of time, or was that really an allegorical reference or some symbolism perhaps to many days? Well, I will tell you that the Hebrew word used there by the author, who is Moses, who's capturing these words directly from God, the word that's used there is yom, and it means a 24-hour period of time. It is a day. Now, if Moses wanted to capture the idea of many days, he could have said something like harbe yom, that it would have been multiple days, many days in the equation, without actually giving us a designated number. And mind you, this is the same author who, in the fullness of the Pentateuch, the Torah, when you get to the book of Numbers, he is giving us rather large numbers in the tens of thousands even. So if Moses wanted to convey to us that there was more than one 24-hour period of time for each and every day of creation, he certainly could have done that. And so that's why the basis of our interpretation through the rest of the Bible is really on the line here. Let me take you to Genesis chapter 1, verse 5. So the evening and the morning were the first day. Now, what we're seeing there is that God has delineated time. He has established time in his atemporal universe. That's right, God is the author of time. Time does not make God subject to it. Rather, it's the other way around. So without the sun or the moon, God has established what a 24-hour period of time is. In fact, he's the one who has established the seconds, the minutes, the hours, the days, the months, the years, yes, even the seasons. And by this, the people would then manage how they worshiped God, because after all, they needed to set apart themselves for worship on the seventh day. And after that Sabbath, then they would need to count all of the seasons, even unto the holy days. And they dare not miss a day of worship unto the Lord. There were severe consequences for doing so. So this establishment of time was given to us by God. So when he uses the word yom, he means it. It's a day for a reason. So God made all of this. So there are observations we need to look at when we examine the world around us. We need to put our science hat on for a moment, and rather than coming at this with a particular paradigm, we need to just look at the evidence for what it tells us. And what you'll see is that over the next 16 pieces of information that I'm going to give you over the next few weeks, you will see that the evidence actually reveals a very young Earth, and scientists are left questioning if they come at this from an old Earth perspective, an evolutionary perspective even, they will find that they are struggling to make sense of it all. So the first one that really causes some consternation for those who really hold to the idea of evolution is the moon dust. Well, it's actually space dust that's collected on the surface of the moon. This is one of those age-old questions that's caused a great deal of debate. Well, you might be wondering, well, how so? Well, if you ever have seen pictures of space shuttles or any type of craft that was designed to go out into space, maybe serving the International Space Station and whatnot, and maybe some of the shots that you'll see of a window that enables astronauts to be able to look out and see the Earth from space, what you'll notice is a lot of those windows are actually scratched. Why is that? It's because there's a lot of dust in space. And as the moon is going around the Earth, as it's caught in the gravitational pull of the Earth, it collects a lot of this dust that's out in space. And it's interesting because as they were examining what was needed in order to put a man on the moon, there were many theories about what they were going to run into when they were putting all these plans into place in 1969. Well, evolutionists believe that the moon, like the Earth, is millions, if not billions, of years old. So in 1955, it was predicted that the depth of the lunar surface might even be miles of dust. And so if they were going to land on the surface of the moon, they had to be prepared that they were going to land into a surface that was so soft that the lunar craft might just disappear from the eyes of men. In fact, they often had cited, one particular citation was from the Royal Astronomical Society in 1955, that there was a layer that was several miles deep, end quote. Isaac Asimov, he said, I get a picture therefore of the first spaceship picking out a nice level place for landing purposes, coming in slowly downward, tail first, and sinking majestically out of sight. That was in 1959. Even children's books, one particular book that was published by Random House Publishing, the author is May and Ira Freeman, and it's titled, You Will Go to the Moon. You Will Go to the Moon. It was written in 1959, and in one particular section of the book, in quote, it says, there is just deep gray dust. Dust, dust, dust. So they were expecting to have a really deep surface. NASA didn't quite know what to do with this information. It was a lot of theory. And so as they were putting together the lunar mission and in their design of the lunar space module, you will see that they actually made these rather wide landing pads, almost like snowshoes. The idea is it would try to sit somewhat on the surface. They even designed the ladder to be rather short because they were expecting several inches, if not 18 inches of moon dust. Well, the interesting thing is, as we know, when they landed on the surface of the moon, there was nothing more than a ½ inch of lunar dust. So all that theory about this moon that's been collecting all of this dust for millions, if not billions of years, was proven to be a false piece of information. All those theories were not accurate. In fact, this ½ inch dust really challenged their entire way of thinking. Ranger and Surveyor space programs that would be put into effect wanted to assess the dust problem. And it was demonstrated that with this dust problem, that the space dust actually accumulates at 2.7 inches per million years. Now, mind you, they only found a ½ inch of dust when they landed on the surface of the moon. So put two and two together there. That means that with only a ½ inch of space dust on the surface of the moon, many then began to theorize that the moon was not that old after all, only but perhaps a few thousand years old, just as the Bible says that it is. Isn't that interesting how that all puts together there? So as young scientists with our young science hat on, making these observations, we, as I have come to this conclusion now, as you come to this conclusion, you'll examine the evidence for yourself. I suspect after this video, you'll go look it up for yourself, and that would be the right thing to do. And you'll see that the observations are rather quite clear. The moon is not that old, and likewise, neither is the Earth. We're just getting started. We've got more to cover next week. God bless you, my friends. Take care.